Hi, this is Jenny, and this is a canvas that I created for Lindy's Stamp Gang July Color Challenge and also for their design team application. When I made this project, I really should have thought that I wanted to make a video at the same time, but I didn't. So instead, I decided to create the same background, a little bit different, but using the same techniques. This just shows a close-up of the great texture you can achieve with some of the techniques I'm going to share with you today. So let's get started. For the second canvas, I used my Xyron 5-inch Creative Station. And what I'm going to do is put tissue paper, crumple it up, and we're going to put adhesive on it and attach it to our canvas. The first canvas I just used Elmer's white glue, but that took a long time to dry. So since I was wanting to make a video, I thought it'd be easier and cleaner just to use my Xyron. So you're going to take this sheet and just press it down to make sure that the adhesive is on the back really good and secure. You're going to peel off the film. And then the tissue paper is really thin, so it doesn't come off in one big sheet, but that's fine for this technique because you're just going to take pieces of the crumpled tissue paper, tear them off, and apply them to the canvas. We're just trying to create as much texture as we can with this. If you have some areas that the paper's sticking up more than you like, you can add a little tissue tape, printed tissue tape, to help hold it down and also to add a little more interest. After you get this complete, you're going to take some white gesso and just paint over the entire surface. And we're going to want this to dry before we go on to the next step, but you can either let it dry naturally or use a heat gun like I did. Now we're going to take a watermark ink and we're just going to brush it over the raised areas on our canvas. And then we're going to use one of Lindy Stamp Gang's two-toned embossing powders. And this one is the Hydrangea Blue Mauve, which is a beautiful deep dark color with lots of iridescence. Heat emboss it. And then I used the Starburst spray in blue Hawaiian blue to spritz over the entire project. And after I did this, I dried it with my heat gun again, and I decided to add some Moonshadow Mist in Bluebeard Blue Violet, and you'll see that when you come to the next scene. I just decided it needed a little more depth. And when it sprays out, it looks really brown, but when it dries, it has the beautiful dark blue and violet colors shimmering through. adding a little bit more of the watermark ink, just randomly dabbing it on the canvas. And then we're using the Desert Moon Turquoise embossing powder, which is a beautiful light blue turquoise. It's like magic when you start seeing it melt on your project. There's so much iridescence and beautiful colors that come out. Now I'm taking a Faber-Castell gelato in boysenberry and just running that around the edges some. I'm going to spray some of my spritz on it to wet it and then just rub it all into the surface with my finger. I used a dry brush to just brush on a little bit more gelato, a little more gesso. Dried it off. Added a little more mist. Now I'm using a template and I'm going to add some embossing paste, black embossing paste from Dreamweaver Stencils. And I just put this on with a palette knife. While this is still wet, I sprinkled it with Twilight Jade Slate embossing powder. And by heating the embossing paste while it's still wet, it bubbles and creates all kinds of really cool textures underneath the embossing powder. Spritzed it a little more. And a few more gelato. Again, I just rubbed it in with my finger. More spritz. And a little bit more of the Desert Moon Turquoise embossing powder. And don't dump it out on your work table like I just did. You don't want to waste that. A little more of the watermark ink, just randomly all over the canvas, and a little bit more of the dark hydrangea blue. And this just shows the textures that I got from this technique. I don't know what I'm going to do with the finished canvas yet, but now I've got my base finished for another project. So I hope you'll come by my blog, jennycagle.blogspot.com, to see my project.